Hi, this is a video for Daf Shevui Daf Kaf Daled of Masechet Ketubot. In the first half of the first side of this daf, we begin a discussion that we don't really begin it more intensely until the second half of the Amud, but it will continue for several dapim. And that's a question related to how do we know that a person is a Kohen, such that we can trust that person with regard to certain matters. Now, there are certain special advantages that a Kohen has that I wanted to introduce here, and then focus on one of them in particular. First of all, a Kohen can eat truma, which is separated from produce, and a non-Kohen is strictly prohibited from eating truma. So that is the first thing, and there's a financial benefit. And along with that, there are other certain financial benefits, including challah, which we will talk about, which is separated from the dough, that usually speaking has the same rules as truma, although not all of the time. There's also obviously the issue of working in the Beit HaMikdash. Only a Kohen could do certain procedures in the temple. But since most of this literature is from the post-Second Temple period, I don't think that probably most of it is focusing on the issue of avodat Beit HaMikdash, working in the Beit HaMikdash. The final issue that really is probably, in my opinion, the most important, comes up in that original Braita, where it says, if a person comes, two people come, and someone says, I'm a Kohen and my other friend is also a Kohen, they can give him truma, right? They can give his friend truma, but they can't marry him to a woman. And the question comes up in the continuation of the Gemara about yochsin, about allowing a person to be married, a Kohen, to marry another woman, a certain woman. And the Rishonim have a lot of problem with this, because according to halacha, a Kohen can marry anyone that an Israelite can marry. There may be some machloket about convert, but leaving aside the particular issue of the convert, a Kohen can marry an Israelite woman, just like a regular Israelite can marry an Israelite woman. And a Kohen cannot marry a natin, or more particularly a mamzer, just as an Israelite cannot marry a natin or a mamzer. I'll explain these at some other point, what those terms are. So what is it, right? If an Israelite, any Israelite, is just allowed to marry any woman he chooses, as long as we know that she's not a natin or a mamzer, we don't check after his lineage to make sure she is permitted to him. And so therefore, the same thing should be true for a Kohen. Why don't we allow a Kohen to just marry anyone that he wants? So the Rishonim have fits with this and offer up all sorts of different interpretations, including one that really takes the whole Gemara out of its pshat and says that it's not that we're allowing him to marry a woman or yochsin for lineage, but really the issue is the result of his union with a woman lowers her lineage. But that is definitely not the simple reading of the Gemara. The simple reading of the Gemara makes a lot more sense historically. Historically, we know that many Kohanim and many Kohanic fathers demanded that their daughters marry other Kohanim. We have ample evidence in rabbinic literature, in Josephus, in other Second Temple literature, that the Kohanim had the custom to marry within the Kohanic family. So a male Kohen would marry a female a daughter of a Kohen. The rabbi said this was not lefi halacha, this was not necessary, but it clearly seems to be a behavior that was undertook by the Kohanim themselves. So clearly this Braita refers to this sort of priestly Kohanic law, the idea being that they wouldn't allow such a person to marry into the highest form of lineage, that is the daughter of a Kohen who can trace her lineage back as much as possible. And it's very interesting because we can see here the tension between the halachic line and what people seem to actually practice. Halachically, actually, it's far more, let's say, radical to give truma to a non-Kohen than it would be to allow him to marry a woman who isn't coming from a Kohanic family with the best lineage. But in popular terms, clearly what was more important to people was lineage. Indeed, I think you could argue that lineage was probably one of the most important let's say, values, barometers of social success. It was one of the number one indicators of a person's level of social status was their lineage. And a person who couldn't prove conclusively that he was a Kohen may have been limited in his marriage opportunities and wouldn't be allowed to marry into this non-halachic but nevertheless existent Kohanic class of women.